Hi, I'm Larry Lotterette with HailToPurple.com, and today we have something a little different for you. This is an audio recording that was made in 1949 that documented student life at Northwestern during the 1948 and 49 school year. The project was led by a student named David Barnheiser, and it was narrated by a senior named Richard Halpern. This project is interesting not only because of the historical glimpse it gives into student activities at the time, but also for what the students chose to include and not include, the perspective of what seemed important to document. Now, because the project happened to coincide with Northwestern's trip to the Rose Bowl, much of the first half of the recording focuses on Wildcat football, while the second half is devoted to other student activities. Myron Orey Jr. eventually put the recording onto a set of records that Northwestern sold privately as an album called, appropriately, Of Our Fair Name. The school claimed that Of Our Fair Name was the first production of its kind to come from any college. Unfortunately, the copy that HailToPurple.com was able to acquire isn't in the best shape. The sound quality is a little rough. Nevertheless, we hope you enjoy this, part one of the project Of Our Fair Name.
Of Our Fair Name. (1948-49), a great year at Northwestern. The football team went to the Rose Bowl. Homecoming was an outstanding success. The Warm You Show was another smash hit, and the University Theater did some of its best. A wonderful year. A year in which school spirit reached an all-time high, and grades reached the hearts of us all. The year started off in the characteristic confusion of rush week, as over 700 handshaking students invaded the North and South Quads. But the rush gave way to a hush as Northwestern crowded close to its radios for the opening game of the football season. The Wildcats have been called the dark horse of the Big Nine, and as they galloped off to a 19-0 victory over UCLA, we all had visions of our dark horse carrying away a good share of the prize money. Even the beginning of classes didn't dampen the sturdy little spark of spirit that had been set off by our football team. The next weekend brought Purdue to Dyke Stadium. Mighty daunted Purdue that so nearly toppled Notre Dame the week before. Here was the test. Did we have a team or didn't we? And hundreds of students, after standing in line for a couple of hours, clinging to their hard-won seats for a couple more, and watching the Wildcats, decided that, yes, we did have a team. The following week, Minnesota tried to scare the life out of the students and the team by grabbing an early 16-0 lead. But instead, they scared more life into both. The cheering section cheered. Burson passed and passed. Hagman, Aschenbrenner, Stonecipher, and Worthington caught. And the Gophers were caught on the short side of a 19-16 final score. What it was that inspired the football team to come up from that 16-point deficit is hard to say. But here's what Coach Bob Voigt later told the students.
All the time that we were down there, we could hear behind us that there were a lot of grand kids still rooting for our football team, and I think you were greatly responsible for helping us come through with the victory over Minnesota.
But if the cheering students were responsible for that victory, it must have been an irresponsible lot that trailed the Wildcats to Michigan the following weekend. It was a bad, sad day. But Syracuse promised to be an easy win. Classes were interesting, of course, and preparations for homecoming were gaining momentum. It was easy to gauge the progress in building floats and house decorations by the dwindling university lumber pile located conveniently near the North Quads. Of course, the individual groups were jealously guarding their entries, and there was a lot of guessing about them around the Rock, the traditional campus meeting place.
The Beatles are building a great big woman.
Hey, there's lots of them. If we're going to win, we've got to have more than
And so after Syracuse had been done away with in fine style, the big week came. Homecoming in Ohio State. Evanston was decked out in Northwestern purple and white, and on the big night preceding the game, the whole town turned out to see the parade. It was a big parade with over 50 floats. Many were real works of art. and the others had the sense to go by in a hurry. The parade proceeded up Sheridan Road, past Scott Hall, Deering Library, Commerce School, and Tech Institute, where the lights were still on and sharp ears could detect the sound of slide rules over the noise of the crowd. A few minutes later, the student body had gathered in Long Field, where preparations had been made for a gigantic bonfire, and the speaker's platform was graced with coaches, football players, and assorted dignitaries, or as they were called, wheels. Speeches by Ted Faysor and Coach Voigt spurred the general enthusiasm, which reached a new peak when football captain Alex Sarkeesian added his comments.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank all you fine students and alums that backed us 100%. I talked to the boys and told them I was going to come over here to talk to you, and they told me that if I didn't say anything else, to be sure and let you know that if it wasn't for that 100% backing that we got from you, we couldn't go 100% out on the field. Now, there's only one more thing for me to say, and that is, regardless of what the score is tomorrow, we'll be in our pitching all the way to make this homecoming weekend a grand one for everybody concerned. Thank you.
Okay, as the band plays Go You Northwestern, we're going to light that bonfire, so let's go. Let's ignite it. Let's go. Hey! I'll make the noise.
And so the homecoming festivities clamored on. The judges gave their decisions, naming Sigma Chi and Willard as the best float builders, SAE and Alpha Chi as having the outstanding house decorations. True to their word, the football team made it a perfect homecoming by downing Ohio State 21-7, and the 2,000 alums that had come home were thoroughly pleased. The scent of roses was in the air now, and the whole university pinned its hopes on winning the nomination to the big bowl game. The coming games would be all important. In the meantime, the university theater players had been preparing their first production of the year, You Touched Me, starring Patty Keith and Carter Benjamin. The critics said a well-rounded, mature presentation of a contemporary work, and all the theater-goers agreed that it was, in the tradition of talent-laden speech school, a smash hit, well acted and well presented. Well done, University Theater. The annual interfraternity freshman pajama race was held on Lincoln Street, and all shapes and sizes of freshmen in all kinds and colors of bedroom attire raced for the coveted Delta Tau Delta trophy, which was awarded to Phi Delta Theta. But the man wearing the loudest pair of pajamas, Parker Stewart of SAE, got even a greater prize. A kiss from pajama race queen Catherine Pennock of Chi Omega. And the following week to mighty Notre Dame, undefeated in 25 games. But fullback Art Murakowski raced 90 yards for a touchdown. It looked like no classes Monday. Final score, 12-7. Yes, mighty Notre Dame, undefeated in 26 games. And there were classes on Monday, as usual. But that Northwestern spirit was rising higher and higher. Higher than anybody could remember, and everybody was thinking about roses. But there was just one thorn, Illinois. So the Wildcats took that thorn and broke it up, 20-7. From then on, everything was rosy. 2 days later, when Big Nine officials announced that it would be Northwestern versus California in the Rose Bowl, there was a spontaneous demonstration the likes of which had never been seen at NU. Classes were barricaded. Signs were posted all over the campus. A placard was pinned on President Snyder's door pleading for no school. The students in the marching band grabbed their instruments and a parade started. Conservative old Evanstonians stopped to raise an eyebrow, but stayed to cheer as over 3,000 horn-honking, yelling, dancing, prancing students paraded through the business district. The traffic was completely halted. This reporter saw a dignified, white-haired gentleman whose car had just been enveloped by the crowd, look around, shrug his shoulders, break into a smile, and give several long blasts on his car horn. Everybody got into the spirit that day, and the spirit was all for Northwestern and that wonderful football team. The crowd moved into Patton Gymnasium and started chanting for the popular President Snyder. With Thanksgiving coming up, the students felt that it would be a splendid idea to do away with the coming 2 days of classes and go home immediately. And finally, after about 2 hours of dancing, singing, and shouting, in came President Snyder, followed by huge Alex Sarkeesian. The president made a short speech to the crowd in which he said nothing at all about classes. It began to look like school would go on as usual. Then he introduced Sarkey, who said, "I want you to know we appreciate this. It's really a fine show of spirit. Now, I've been talking to President Snyder here, and if you promise not to disturb those who want to study down in the library, there'll be no more school until after Thanksgiving." The next day, the Daily Northwestern came out with the gigantic headline, "Roses," and above that, "No School." This had been an unparalleled burst of spirit. Never before in the history of Northwestern had anything quite like this occurred. The student body was jubilant. A Rose Bowl team and a full week's vacation all at once. It was tremendous. But the vacation came to an abrupt end with the resumption of classes. The work had piled up and the students buckled down. University Theater presented its second masterpiece, Antigone, starring Nels Culbertson and Bob Wright. But the students left their books long enough to attend the Navy Ball and chose Fran Erickson as Queen of Roses. Then back to work for approaching, and approaching rapidly with a disastrous speed was exam week. We pause here in silent tribute to those friends and neighbors we lost. And then came Christmas, and then the Rose Bowl. All the students that were able hopped on trains, planes, buses, and automobiles bound for Pasadena. And the rest of us stuck close to our radios for the big broadcast on New Year's Day.
From Pasadena in sunny California, the annual Rose Bowl game, daddy of them all. Happy New Year, everybody everywhere. This is Mel Allen with John Harrington, greeting you as the Wildcats from Northwestern prepare to tangle with the Golden Bears of California in a gridiron battle that promises excitement galore. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a...
And then those of us who were at home sat back, well on the edge of our chairs, and listened. We heard Frank Aschenbrenner dash 73 yards for a Wildcat touchdown. We could hear our classmates cheering, and we cheered a little too. All of a sudden, everybody realized that the clock was running out and that Northwestern was behind, 14-13. The Wildcats were 88 yards away from a winning touchdown. They started marching. They charged, and they ran up to the 45-yard line. But then they seemed to stall. It was fourth down and 1 yard to go for a first down. Gasper Perricone bowled into the center of the California line and seemed to get nowhere. Was Northwestern stopped at last? The referees measured. Did they make it? Did they? Yes, no, they had made it. 4 more downs, but they were still going a long way from that goal line.
Northwestern, 1st and 10 on the California 45. And with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in the ball game, can the Wildcats come from behind? California leads 14-13. All right, it's Stonecipher and Kelly at the end. Burton, the quarterback. And with that ball, he hands it off to Aschenbrenner. Fakes the pass. He's running. He is being caught. Then he gets down to the 43 and is driven out of bounds beautifully by Bob Solari. The defensive left halfback who came up and ran Aschenbrenner wide. Frank tried to cut inside. He couldn't and was driven out of bounds on the California 43-yard line. A 2-yard gain, 2nd and 8. And you've got Bill Foreman moving in for Rudy Chernock at right tackle for Northwestern. And boy, the time is running out on the Wildcats as Cal leads 14-13. And about 2 minutes left. And now the left halfback, Aschenbrenner, motion to the right, a direct snap from center. To Donnicliffe, he's running. He's to the 30, to the 25, to the 20. He's down to the 10, the 5, he's over. He's over for the TD.
Jim Farrar's place kick was good. The score was 20-14, and Northwestern was 1949 Rose Bowl champs. Okay, everybody, back to class.